This video looks so interesting. I had to hop on. We got to take a look at this vid, bro. You know, say why does the black man like himself a large posterior? Why do we like a big old fat butt? I love me a big old fat butt. It's nice, it's jiggly, soft, things of that nature. Nice little, feel me? You know what I'm saying? Real ones know. Why do we like a big butt? Let's figure it out. My assumption, I don't know. I don't know what my assumption is, but I think my assumption is, in Africa, that's just what we used to, bro. You know what I'm saying? Our women just have, nice builds. You know what I'm saying? We gracious in that department. Um, and, that's just a thing we've come to enjoy
I like
and
big
prefer.
butts and I cannot lie.
Let's get into this,
Other
though.
brothers can't deny.
What science says.
The elephant in the room is this. Why do black men like big butts? And is that even true, or is it just another wrong racial stereotype? They're questions that have launched 1,000 rap lyrics and even a few scientific studies. Hey, I'm Ken LaCourte. Here, I try to give you a fair and balanced look at geopolitical issues, awkward questions around race and gender, our uncomfortable history, and of course, the female backside. So I dug in to try to figure it out. And what I found surprised me. It goes way deeper than pop culture or Instagram likes. We'll look into the evolutionary roots of why men find certain shapes attractive, the contrasting beauty standards between African and Europeans, and how they've changed over time, but persisted in African American culture. And let me get my own biases out of
Look, bro, I'm telling you, I remember this being the case. Oh my gosh. I remember this being the case. You feel me? White people did not like a big old butt until recent time. Because, we make up the trends and the standards around here. Black people do. All of a sudden, the big old fat butt seems very appealing. I feel like this is very nostalgic for like other races of people. Maybe not Hispanic people. I think Hispanic people always kind of been there as well. Liking a nice old butt. You feel me? But European people, white people, I don't think that's been
the way first.
I could be
For
wrong,
all my
but
life,
I don't think so. I don't.
Been a small butt guy. So I was fascinated at how millions of men came to the opposite conclusion. But first, let's make sure that question is fair. Do black men, in fact, love big butts more than others? And can I generalize about an entire race's preferences? Actually, yes, I can, especially when there's solid science backing it up. And on this, the science is clear. Black men love big butts, and it's not even debatable. Now, I know some of you are going to think guys of all races like big butts, and that's true, but there's a spectrum of preferences within every group. And the data consistently shows that race plays a significant role in backside desires. Let's start with some data. A study by the University of Texas found that African American men are twice as likely to prefer a large rear compared to their white counterparts. But it's not just a black and white issue. The study also found that Latino men share this preference, but to a lesser degree than the African
American. See? Right there with you. Him said Latino man. Facts.
And dating site statistics back this up as well. When researchers analyzed the body type preferences selected by users on popular dating platforms, they found clear differences between racial groups. Again, African American men were far more likely to search for thicker, curvier body types compared to white men. And interestingly, it's not just about the size of the prize. It turns out that there's an ideal angle of the dangle. The University of Texas study found that men overwhelmingly preferred a 45-degree curve at the lower spine. This magic number held true across all races, but researchers noticed that the desired degree of curvature was most exaggerated among African American men. But wait, there's more. It's not just about the back, it's about the waist to hip ratio, to be precise.
Right.
Studies show that the preferred ratio differs significantly by race. African American men tend to prefer a more extreme.
Dude rapping about how much he likes big butt. You go in this vid, you go and watch this vid, there ain't that much mass. You know what I'm saying? There's a thing called booty inflation, and we definitely have a very inflated view on what a large behind is.
Contrast between a small waist and large hips, while white men generally prefer a more moderate difference. So why is this the case? How did these different beauty standards develop? Is it nature or nurture that's shaping these preferences? Specifically, why did African American beauty standards evolve to prefer curvier figures in the first place? Now, at its base level, there are biological and environmental factors at play. In historical Africa, a bigger body made a lot of evolutionary sense. The continent's harsh climate and inconsistent food supplies meant that some extra body fat could literally be the difference between life and death during lean times.
Absolutely. And if you take a look at like the transatlantic slave trade, if you were like a very like calorie dependent person, like if you needed to like eat more to like live, you probably died and starved on those slave boats. A lot of us that came over here were able to like, you know, survive off not having to eat a lot. At least this is my assumption. This could be completely false. But like, yeah, this like definitely makes sense. Yeah.
It meant strength. It meant health. Larger bodies were also better equipped to handle the physical demands of manual labor and childbearing, essential for survival. In an environment where resources were scarce, curves became a visible marker of health, wealth, and fertility. Now here's where it gets less clear. Was it really men choosing fuller women over skinnier ones? Or is it that given the environment, those that thrived had those bodies? I mean, the things that we see are the things that we covet, and if that's what you saw, that's what you're going to love. Now, those traits aren't unique to Africa, of course. Throughout history and across many cultures, fullness has been linked to fertility and vitality. But in the context of African environments, these biological signals seem to take on an especially important role. As African societies developed, the evolutionary preferences became encoded into cultural beauty standards. Artwork from across the continent celebrated the fuller female form, from ancient rock art to traditional sculptures. When Europeans arrived with their own beauty standards, many African cultures actively resisted these impositions, maintaining tradition.
They shut up. Don't nobody want that shit. Nobody want that European beauty standards. Let me show y'all the European beauty standard real quick. We're gonna compare and contrast. No racial here, man. We fuck Donald Trump. You know what I'm saying? I love all people, but we just gonna keep it a bean. Hold on. Let me check. I can't type. Can't see my keyboard. European. BT. I'm typing old. I'm gonna be equal. No, I'm even be fair. I'll be fair. Okay, old African beauty. These all modern. I forgot. They weren't making great pictures back in the day. They weren't making like the freaking paintings. They weren't really making these in Africa. So this would be a extremely hard thing to gauge actually. Because when you're going against a freaking portrait and freaking sculpture like these, it's kind of difficult to really decide. So never mind, guys. We're going to table this discussion. It was probably going to be problematic anyway, and I apologize.
Aesthetics became a form of cultural preservation and identity in the face of oppression. Now, fast forward to today, and we can see how these deep-rooted preferences continue to shape beauty standards in the African American communities. Cultural artwork, from jazz album covers to hip-hop music videos, has consistently celebrated curvier body types. There's also been a strong community emphasis on resisting mainstream beauty standards that are often rooted in European ideals. For many, embracing fuller figures is a way of kind of honoring their cultural heritage and identity. So maybe the preference for larger body types among black men isn't just a superficial trend.
Then you have Kim Kardashian and Kylie Jenner pulling up, fucking the whole thing up.
And but a result of thousands of years of evolutionary adaptations and cultural traditions. But what about white preferences? While African beauty standards remain relatively stable, European ideals took a wild ride. Back in the day, Europeans liked those big booties too. Renaissance paintings are full of voluptuous women, ample curves. Rubens, the 17th century Flemish painter, was so famous for his full-figured nudes that we still use the term Rubenesque to describe them today. But then something happened. Europe industrialized. And with it came a seismic shift in beauty standards. The Industrial Revolution wasn't just about factories and
Especially because, being fat was like a sign of wealth and stuff in Europe, if I'm not mistaken.
It also changed food production, making calories cheaper and more abundant than ever before. Suddenly, being plump wasn't a sign of wealth anymore. Anyone could do it. So the upper classes needed a new way to distinguish themselves. Enter the corset. Nothing says, I don't need to work for a living, like a waist that you can't breathe in. Thinness became a new status symbol. The Victorian era doubled down on the trend. They associated thinness with moral purity and self-control. Bigger women? They were seen as lazy and lacking willpower. Talk about a 180-degree turn. Fast forward to the 20th century, and things get even more intense. The rise of mass media, magazines, movies, TV, started beaming these new ideals into every home. Fashion magazines pushed increasingly thin models. Hollywood starlets got skinnier. By the 1960s, we had Twiggy, literally named after a twig, as a top beauty icon. But here's the kicker. While European standards were changing,
I always
African
hated
beauty
that
ideal
look. The super thin supermodel look. I always hated that look. And this old timey, look. This joint was not fly. But then again, I am black. This isn't my beauty standard. Feel me?
African beauty ideals stayed relatively stable. Many African societies industrialized more slowly. Some still haven't. So the pressures that shifted European ideals weren't as intense.
And we didn't industrialize very well because of those same European people. We're not going to let that slide over here. You're going to be aware of your history. White people colonized Africa and stripped Africa of all of its precious resources. And you get what you get today because you've stripped Africa.
But come back to America for a second. Black Americans
Facts.
live in an industrialized society too. Why haven't their preferences changed? And it's a good question. And it's because African American culture developed its own unique identity. During slavery, Black Americans created a distinct counterculture. Rejecting white standards became a form of resistance, and strong oral traditions and tight-knit communities kept cultural preferences strong, even as the broader society changed around them. And at the same time, white America basically rejected them. Forced segregation created parallel societies with different values. It limited the influence of mainstream media and strengthened the internal community bonds. For blacks, the concept of America's melting pot happened a lot more slowly. Even as Black Americans gained more access to mainstream culture, there was often a strong pushback against whitewashing beauty standards. The Black is Beautiful movement of the 1960s is a great example. Today, we're seeing some interesting convergences. Mainstream beauty standards are becoming more inclusive of curvier figures. Now, is this a genuine appreciation? Or is it marketing exploitation? Or is that all intermixed? I don't know. So the next time you see a Renaissance painting,
bit of all of
modern
it.
fashion magazine, remember, beauty standards aren't set in stone. They're as changeable as the societies that create them. Hey, just a reminder that if I mess up any facts here, as always, I'll address it in a pinned comment below. But when you think about it, even this video is coming at things from a European standpoint. From an African point of view, the question isn't what I posed, but instead, why do white guys like small butts? And that hits at something deeper. For centuries, European standards dominated global beauty. They owned the magazines, they controlled the fashion houses, they ran the movie studios. They got to tell everyone else what beautiful meant. But nature's a stubborn thing. Those African preferences that developed over thousands of years weren't just random choices, they were rooted in biology. But recently, something's changed. Now, maybe it was the internet democratizing beauty standards. Maybe it was the rise of hip-hop culture. But what's really going on is more interesting than just preferences. We're watching centuries of parallel beauty standards finally collide. Now, some say it's cultural appropriation, others call it progress. But here's what they're...
It's appropriation most of the time. Especially with the Caucasian woman getting a BBL. freaking BBL by white people. Crazy, disgusting. But if
missing.
it's just like a genuine, like, larger woman or whatever, yeah, it's fine, I guess.
African American beauty standards didn't just survive. In some ways, they're winning the cultural war. Kim Kardashian helped build an empire by copying black beauty ideals. So it's certainly
That's it.
possible that Sir Mix-a-Lot was a philosopher ahead of his time. I find that interesting, but not interesting enough to change the team I'm on. So look, this video about body preferences is pretty lighthearted, but in recent years, we've seen the body positivity movement turn into something that's deadly toxic. Our media and our society went from trying to be nice to overweight people to something that celebrated and encouraged radically dangerous lifestyles. It's like some people lost their minds. I dug into the ugly underside of that and saw that.
It's something on this video right here. But anyway, do you like a big old fat butt? Do you like yourself a nice little, you know what I'm saying? Some yummy, some yams, you know what I'm saying? Me personally, I like me some yams. Need me some yams all the time, every day. Hope you enjoyed this here video, man. I'm gonna catch you on the next one. Peace.